let's go ahead and just talk about, what the experience was like with when you going over the narrative report with the attorney. And let's see if we can enhance that a little bit. So let's go. Let me set the stage here. So what we did is we did the sales presentation to the attorney. You got the two referrals, you updated the documentation, you put it into the narrative report, and now you come back to him to show him what he did and did not have and how you put it together to support the injury award. Is that where we're at?
Actually, this one was a little unique, Doc. He watched the presentation, half of it. And then when I went to follow up with him, he said, I basically heard everything I needed to know. Let's just go through with the patients and see how you do on the end, on the back end.
Well, that's interesting. So he didn't even hear the whole presentation and he was sold.
He was sold, but he didn't permit me to do a follow-up narrative report with him, do the case financial drivers with him. So what I did was, because I was already treating patients that he referred me, I just waited until I got a case that was done, and I called him and I asked him what he liked for me to do a narrative report.
Okay,
And
so
when
let
he
me
said
understand this. So basically, you had a case with the attorney, and he said, "Well, let's see how you do with that case."
yes,
Okay, I got you. All right. So you go ahead and finish the case and do a narrative report, right?
right,
Okay, so you go back over there, and we talked about since he did not see the full case, we talked about the presentation. We talked about finishing the presentation. Did he allow you to do that, or was he too strong to allow you to do that?
he allowed me. He fought me a little bit because he's a B attorney, so he fought me a little bit, but I was able to get through with it.
Okay.
I utilized those obstacles. You know, you talked about the obstacles. I basically pushed them on the back burner. I just kept telling them, I'll deal with that at the end of the presentation. Just give me this time.
Right.
Just work with me. And I got to tell you, within 5 minutes, once I went over the first two categories, once I went over the injury and the impairment, he was locked in. He realized he
Okay.
didn't know what he thought he knew.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. In other words, you had to know how to control the presentation, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Can you
Yes, I
see
did.
how if you didn't know how to control that and he would have just blew you back, you may have just lost everything.
Yeah, if I hadn't listened to your advice when you talked about obstacles, basically just watching you, listening to you, listening to your presentations and how you handle with attorneys. If I didn't drill that over and over and over, I probably would have lost that battle. He would have dictated that whole session, and
And you
I
would
probably
have
would just be
now
back
once
where I
that
was.
happened, you would have never been able to establish need.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Good. So you were bright enough and you were aware enough to put him on hold. So he ran to the service factors and the myths, right?
Say it again.
He wanted you to go into the service factors and the myths,
Yeah, yeah, a little bit.
right?
He pretty much told me, Doc, that he already knew everything. He already heard all of this.
Right,
And
right.
I shared with him, I said, well, just bear with me to the end. I know you may know these things, but just hold on for a second. Just humor me, bear with me to the end. And as we went through it, he realized that he did not know.
Okay. So by the second topic, by the way, how did you know that? When you got to the second topic, how did you know that you kind of had reeled him in, so to speak, and and got covered information he didn't know? How did you know that? Did he say it?
So what I did was I took him through just like you did how I covered the breakdown of percentages. I asked him at the very beginning. I said, "Give me, the soft tissue cases you get per month that are not disc, that are not nerve, that are not concussion, that are not fractures." And he was like, at first he said too many, like too many. I was like, well, just give me a number. And he said 30. First he said 30. And I'm thinking like, wow, that's a lot. And then, so basically, what I went down, I went over those again, and I said, "But do you know what are the top two causes of injuries and soft tissue injury cases?" And he didn't know. And so when I went
Now,
to
wait a minute.
alter,
Wait a minute. How long has this attorney been in practice?
I want to say at least about 15, maybe 20
Okay, so he's
years.
not a new young guy.
No, he's not by any
Okay.
stretch of
Okay,
means.
so 15, 20 years, he's getting 20 plus PI cases, soft tissue alone, and he doesn't even know the most common diagnosis.
He did not know. He didn't know number
Okay.
one
And
or
then,
number two.
okay, so you go through the diagnoses, then you go to the impairments, and then what happens?
So I went to the diagnosis. I went to the impairments. He still was still trying to cut me off. He still wanted me to. He didn't want me to go through. I was just like, "Hey, hang in there for me just a little while longer." When I got down to the duties
Well,
under
wait a
duress,
minute. Wait a minute. What was he trying to cut you off to? Where was he trying to lead you? To
he
where?
was trying to lead me to basically. He was saying, "Hey, doc, you're basically trying to tell me you're gonna make me a lot of money."
So he was basically just trying to cut it short and cut you off. So it sounds like he was not trying to go to the myths or service factors.
Right,
Okay. Okay. So he'd already heard all the other chiropractors' presentations on how they're going to make them a lot of money, right?
right.
Yeah. So he was fed up with that. Okay. So you get his patients, you ask him to hold on, and then what happens? You go through number two, the impairments, and then what's he start talking like?
That's when he mentioned actually after the second one, after the after he was 0 for 2, I said you're 0 for 2, and I directed him towards. So what are you looking at? Are you looking at a no offer? And he didn't. That's when he said, "I know what you're doing. I know you're trying to tell me you're gonna make me a lot of money and all of this stuff." And so I just reiterated again, just hanging with me, hanging with the end. I know you may have heard this before, but hang in there.
Hit your sound again, Chris. Your sound went on. Okay, go ahead.
By the time I got down to number 5, he was locked in. He realized at that moment that he did not know what he thought he knew. And he realized at that moment that I wasn't about just making him money. I was helping him to try to stop losing money.
Right. That's what got his attention.
Yes,
Now, so you finished the fifth financial driver, and of course that's where all the money was. Out of the five, how many of those categories was he getting from his doctors?
just one.
One. Yeah. And that's pretty standard what I keep talking about, right? They're only typically getting
Right.
one of the five top financial driver categories. And he did not even know that, did he?
He had no idea.
And you got him to admit
He
all
had
that.
no idea. I got him to admit all of that. By the time we were done, Doc, he only had 3 out of 10. And I
And
applied
that's
those numbers.
that's common. One of the top five and only 3 out of 10. Remember, we told you that. That's what's
Yes.
happening out there, and they don't even know it. Now, did he say anything in particular when you got him to admit how this is affecting his injury award? Did he say in particular that you remember that the light bulb went off, that he's losing money?
So after I applied it to the number he gave me, initially it was 30. And then when I came back and I said, "So
Well,
you said it was 30."
before you go there,
Okay.
I'm still in the presentation. You're at you finished the fifth financial driver. He's 1 for 5. What's his demeanor? Is he smiling? Is he happy? What's his demeanor?
His his countenance kind of changed, but he was locked in as opposed to initially he was trying to rush me through. I already know this. Oh, I've heard
Okay.
this before.
So now he's
Now
listening
he
to
was
you.
very attentive. Now he's listening. Now he's locked in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you continue on and you do all the micro agreements, right? For every topic.
Yes.
And it turns out he's only getting 3 out of 10. And you got him to admit that.
Yes.
Okay. So you finish up, you got him to admit he's only getting 3 out of the 10 categories, and you got him to admit how it's affecting his injury award.
Yes.
Okay. You see how you wouldn't have had a chance in hell if you'd talked about making him money?
No chance at all.
See?
No shot.
All right. So you finish up, you're 3 out of 10. You go to do the math, and what happens? You add the
When
math.
I added it up, he was losing. I told him he was losing almost $2 million a year.
Did you do 30 cases or 20?
I did the 20 because he changed on me. He said, well, it's really 20. I said,
Okay.
okay, well, let's go 20.
Yeah. And
20
that's what you should
times.
have done, is gone to the lower number.
Yep.
Okay. So you say 20. And see how important it is to get these numbers in the beginning
Yes, so
before
important.
before they understand what's going on, because they'll change them on you.
Yeah, because
Okay.
he would have never gave me that. He would
Yeah,
have never, the way he fought me.
nobody likes to admit that they're losing, or they're a loser, or things are going bad. Okay, so you got 20 and he's 3 out of 10. And did you add that up at roughly $1,000 a case, or $1,000 a point of documentation?
Yes.
He didn't have any trouble with that, did he?
No, he didn't.
Okay. So that's $7,000 a case you got him to agree to, right?
Yes.
And then you multiplied that times 20.
Yes.
That's 140,000. What are 2 times 7,
140,000.
440,000 a month?
Yep.
What did he say when you got to that number?
He was kind of frozen. He didn't say much until I multiplied it times 12 months.
And then you took it over a year, 140 times a year. So that is, whoa, that's 1.4. That's like 1.67 million, right?
I basically said it's almost $2 million. I said almost $2 million
Yeah.
that you're losing out of.
Yeah. So, and by the way, it's good to use the real number so they can't deny it. So
Okay.
40, yeah, it would, estimating and going up was not beneficial for you. You'd have done better
Okay.
stick with the real number, because you can't deny real numbers.
Right. Right. Right.
See? So 140,000 times 12, $1.68 million. That's what I would have said. It's 1 point, and I'd have showed them the calculator. Just on your phone,
Nice.
calculator on your phone. So basically that's about $1.68 million. And when you got him, when you pointed that number out, what did he say?
Nothing. He was frozen, like frozen still. He had nothing to say.
He
I had
saw it.
all those obstacles,
He
but
saw it. He saw it, didn't he?
I believe he saw it at that
Yeah.
point.
What were you saying about the obstacles he was throwing at you?
He had many obstacles in the beginning, and I was prepared for it because he's not a C attorney. I know he's a B attorney. He's got this high loft, overlooking the city and all of that. He's got
Right.
his full staff. So I knew it would be some obstacles in the beginning, but I remembered the videos and what you said about pushing them to the side. And at the end, he had nothing to say. He had nothing negative to say. Now he was open. Now he was open to what I had to say because he realized that he was losing.
And what happened next?
So the next thing is that I went over the narrative report,
Good. How'd that go?
and one
Did you outline that? Did you outline it first to show them the categories and why they were like that?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
So you laid the groundwork.
laid the groundwork, and then it made the narrative more sense to him because I not had done it, had I not done the recap that you had mentioned, he would have he would totally missed it.
Right.
He would have totally missed it.
Yeah, in other words, you got to train him, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you're training him of how the narrative comes together and the categories and why it's so important to put these categories together. And then did you went through the narrative with him?
Yes, I went through the narrative
What the
with
patient
him.
did or did not have?
Yes.
Okay. And this particular patient had not gone to, or this particular patient had gone to another doctor before, right?
No, this patient was with me the whole way through.
Okay. So how did you how did you square that by showing him that he was only getting 3 out of the 10 documentation categories and you were the doctor? Did you do
Well,
this is before and after? This was like what I was doing before, but now this is what I've learned,
yes. I kept saying to him, remember how you would say, you got to tell him it's not your fault.
right?
Let him know this is not your fault. This is what the doctors are doing. By the way, this is what I was doing.
So you even admitted your ignorance.
Yes,
That was smart. And then you told him higher authority, which was me, right?
right.
That you'd studied this, big. See how well that works?
It worked really well.
Yep.
Worked really well.
Yeah. So, man, that was a lot of trust that you built in right there by showing him how, this wasn't done right when I didn't know how to do it. And I hired this guy and he showed me how to do it. And now this is what we're doing. And you showed, and then you did a comparison of you before and after and what a difference that is.
Big difference.
Okay. So, yeah, that's a huge credibility. Can you see that?
It, it was like night and day, Doc. I've never had that response, but from him before. We've been working together for probably about 2 or 3 years. I've never had that response like that. We've had lunches, multiple lunches,
Yeah.
had this response.
That's a huge credibility the way you accepted responsibility for what wasn't done. Then you did third party authority with me that we're doing it this way now. And then you showed them the difference and the magnitude of the difference. That was huge credibility. Okay. So you did you walk through the patient's documentation now and how it fit into the 7 major categories, the
Yes, I
minimum
did.
the minimum 7 categories to support an injury award. What did he think about that when you pointed out the 7 minimum categories to support an injury award?
He thought it was amazing that I knew about that.
He didn't even know it,
He
did he?
he had no idea.
Yeah.
And I think that was the biggest thing out of this whole thing. It was that he didn't know what I thought he knew. Before I started with you, I
I,
thought he knew a
I,
whole lot more
I
than
get
what he
that from
did.
chiropractors all the time. They think attorneys know way more than they do, and they don't. So you basically put out the bare minimum documentation needed to support a high value award. So he's probably feeling pretty good about you right there, right?
Yeah, he's feeling really good about me.
And then did you apply that patient's documentation into those 7 categories to let him know what he did or did not have?
Yes, I did.
And how did it fulfill all 7 categories?
No, it did not.
Okay. So good. Then you see how your credibility is skyrocketing because you're sticking with the system. You're not worried about if the patient had the positive finding or not.
Right.
That's the credibility, is that you know the system and you can explain to him that he's got a bad case and why. So you went through there and showed him how this patient did not have the 7 major categories. Is that what you did?
I did. I
And when
did
you did
exactly
that,
that.
and you said, this is why this is not a good case, I would settle this and move on to the next one. What did he say?
I think he was kind of relieved, and he wanted to focus on the future. He wanted to know about future narrative reports and how much it's going to cost. He was
Yep.
ready.
Yep. You see, a patient with not much finding is not the issue. I say that all the time because remember I told you doctors are always, they get a referral. They always think they need to have a big case. Like, no, that is not what creates authority. It's that you know all the categories and you know how to explain to him if the patient has them or not, and if it's a valuable or not valuable case. That is what is singularly most important. And so you finish with that case, and he saw how much potential money he was losing. He's now not going to lose because you know all the documentation, you know the 7 categories, and you say, hey, this guy doesn't fit into it. And he's totally okay with it, isn't he?
Yeah, he's totally okay. And partly because I told him, you don't have to, now that you know, you don't have to waste your time
Right.
with this case.
That's right.
So I'm saving you time,
Yep.
you
That's
know.
exactly right. Yep. And this is a way for sometimes these attorneys get hounded by the clients, demanding more money than reality. And I've told you before, I've had attorneys ask our clients to explain to their clients, like what you explained to him, how this is not a high injury award. So,
Awesome.
yeah, so you saved him a hell of a lot of time, effort, and energy. And now he wants to know about the future, So, what were some of the things he wanted to know about the future?
He wanted to know how much would these narrative reports be in the. So at this time, Doc, I made the offer to him to do two cases.
Okay.
Even though I did this guy, even though I did this guy on the house, I did it just to get in the door with him.
Right.
You
Right.
know, I just using it as an excuse to get in to market to him. And
Right.
so I said, well, now I like to give you the opportunity. I like to do two cases, you know, basically on the house.
To
And
two evaluations, not two treatment cases.
right.
Two
It,
evaluations. In other words, two of his other cases that somebody else has treated, and then you do the documentation evaluation, right?
that's right.
Okay. And I'm sure he was immediately agreeable to that.
Yes, he was. And then he said, what about the future, Doc? What about when after I, allow you to do these two, how much will it cost? And then I gave him the fee. I told him what the fee was. I told him the 20% discount. And he said, is this just for your cases or is this for any case? And I told him it was for any case. And after that, he was all locked in.
Yeah. I'd say you handle that really well. I
Well,
mean,
thanks to you, Doc, your advice.
yeah, I mean, you just kind of did everything that we keep training on. You just followed it. You didn't let him take control and ruin it. Man, imagine if you'd have let him take control in the beginning and he would have just ruined it.
We would have never gotten through it, Doc. He would have never permitted me to
Right,
get through reviewing it.
right.
And he would have never known. He would have never known. I would have been in the same boat with him had I not dealt with those obstacles like you suggested. We would have never had this conversation. We wouldn't be talking right now.
So you started, did you even go into, after you covered the seven, did you go in at all into the four injury awards and how those four injury awards are awarded, how the documentation is converted into the four injury awards?
Yeah, I kind of did it like a miniature version of how you did it. How basically after we checked off that there was no impairment, we took the impairment
Right.
off the table. And then when we got down to what was that, loss of enjoyment,
Well,
we
wait a
had to
minute.
do.
Well, wait a minute. I'm past the presentation.
Oh, you
Um,
passed the presentation.
yeah,
Okay.
and I'm past the seven categories. Because remember,
Okay.
the last thing that we typically will do is tell them how much money it's typically worth. We'd cover the four injury awards, and we'd go,
Yes.
this is typically how the documentation is converted into these four injury awards. Were you able to do
Right.
that?
Yes, I was. Yes, I
Okay.
was.
So you went through the medicals and how that's supported with documentation?
Yes.
And then you went through the impairment and how that's
Yes.
supported and the pain and suffering,
Yes.
and then the need for future care.
Yes.
What did he have to say after that? When you explained that to him, what did he have to say?
He was. I think he was speechless. But that was kind of reassuring to me. He was speechless. He did not know what to say, but he wanted to move on and he wanted to know how much the
In other
future
words, he
cases.
wanted he wanted to move on and start doing more business with you.
He wanted to get right to it. Once he realized that he didn't know what I knew and the value of what I knew, he wanted to proceed forward.
So yeah, he was ready to move fast. Well, that's good that you stayed in line and didn't jump the line. And then especially when you covered how that last big category is huge. is the documentation that determines the injury awards. He probably didn't even get a clue that he knew that, did he?
He didn't know.
They don't.
He did not know,
They
Doc.
they have a couple formulas and that's it. You know, I told you generally they'll look at if the amount of damage, if the person had surgery, um, or they had a positive MRI. That's all they kind of know to think by. They don't know all this detail and how it all comes together. And they wouldn't. They're not doctors. There's no reason for them to know it. So you followed through all the major steps, and then you finished with the 4 injury award categories. And man, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall to watch his face and expressions through that one. And by the way, that's one of the hardest attorneys to deal with, which is a trial lawyers association, because those guys think, they know everything, and they do know a lot. Those guys do know a lot. Could you tell the difference between how much he knew and what we call a C attorney?
Yeah, it was night and day, Doc. Because the
Yeah.
one I did previously for was a C attorney. He was more locked in, listening to everything I said, and I knew ahead of time because I looked up this attorney and I realized he was a part of the Trial Lawyers Association. He's actually a part of the. He has like one of the. I forgot what you call it. It's president, vice president, secretary. He's on the
Position.
board.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh, he's on the board. So I went into this knowing that there was going to be opposition,
Right.
but I kept telling myself, no matter what, I'm going to go through with this, and I'm going to use all the tools that you have, given us, equipped us to use, and I'm going to get through this presentation. And I'm so glad I did, Doc, because I realized that my value, and he realized my value. It was
Right.
a great experience.
So look at the difference between a C attorney, how much easier they were to control and lead, but you were equipped to go after that higher end attorney now, weren't you?
I was equipped, and I think it's because I've done it initially with the C attorney,
Right.
built up my confidence
Can you
that I
see, can
felt,
you see how you would not have had a chance doing any type of communication with that trial lawyer if you did not know all this material we teach?
oh, he would have destroyed me.
Yeah.
He would have destroyed me. He would have had me going out. I probably would have been, I wouldn't have cried there. I probably would have been crying in the car or something like that because,
Yeah.
I'm a man. But yeah, he would have destroyed me. It would have been demoralizing. It would have destroyed my confidence if
Yeah.
I had not known the information, the tactics, the strategies that you have been given
Well,
to us.
especially when you were able to put them on hold. I mean, that saved your whole presentation by you being able to put them on hold. Because
Yeah, and
you got to remember, these trial attorneys are used to leading and controlling people. That's what they do in court. So yeah, they're not weaklings, and they know something. So I'm like, yeah, you better know something when you show up, and you better know something about how to control a room. And so you kind of kept putting him in his place. You kept going through it. And because you were able to do that, it all worked out just fine.
it did. It
How
did.
did how did it end?
It ended with him walking me to the. I said, like, hey, I'll see you later. Like, I know you. I mean, I see you later. I know you're busy. He was like, no, let me walk you. Let me walk you to the. Let me walk you out. And I'm like, okay, this is what Dr. Paul said would happen. Yeah, yeah,
So
and it was great.
he's showing a little respect at the end there, isn't he?
He did. He did. And it was great. It was so
Did
rewarding.
did you line up the two other patient evaluations?
No, he told me he was going directly on trial because when I was sitting and waiting, I could hear him with I guess his bosses. They were talking about some trial or something like that. And
Uh,
so,
all right. So that's how it works. You do all these steps. That's exactly how it works. And I say it all the time. That's the trial. He was a trial lawyer. I said that's the ultimate place to be. Why? He's getting 20 soft tissue injury cases a month, 20. And that's where it's at. So you do have to know something, can't be weak. And good with Chris that he not only knew the basic information, but he knew how not to let that attorney hijack the meeting. And because that's what they do. They're used to controlling and leading people. They're not weak people. And so Chris kept putting him on hold. He gets through it, and everything worked out just fine. And there you go. So now Chris has a trial lawyer attorney who has 20 new soft tissue injury cases a month that he did not know what to do with. Now he has that attorney as a referring attorney. And that was Chris's only second presentation. Second. That is, Chris averages $3,000 a case. 20 cases at $3,000 a case. 20 cases times 3,000. That's $60,000 a month times 12 months. That's $720,000. And Chris had already picked up 2 other attorneys on the first presentation. He was getting 3 to 4 from them. So you add in another 720, add in another 4, 3 times 4 is $12,000 a month. 3 times, let's say, yeah, 12,000. 12,000 a month times. So that's what Chris did by his first presentation, $12,000 a month. So $12,000 times 12 is 144. 144 plus 720, 864. Chris just increased his business with 2 attorney presentations, $864,000. And the other attorney asked him to be his expert witness. And by all means, it looks like that's where this one's headed also. That's what happens when you do it, when you actually do it step by step, like we teach. And I said 3 months ago, I said, Chris is going to increase his business $500,000. I said, you watch and see. And the reason I said that is because he actually did everything we taught. Every time we taught something, he would do it. We would teach it, he would do it. We would teach it, he would do it. And if he had questions, he'd stop me, get it cleaned out. In other words, he did every step exactly how it is. And here it is 6 months later, and he's got 3 attorneys. The first presentation was to 2 attorneys. And then this one was a trial lawyers association with 20 cases. That alone is gold right there. And he increased his business $800,000 from 2 presentations and 3 attorneys. That's how fast this goes. That's the potential. Now, of course, all you got to do is do the work now. Now you got to follow up. You got to say what you're going to do and all that. Of course, Chris knows how to do that. And just as important, we talk about all the time, it doesn't matter what the patient has or doesn't have. You as a chiropractor, can't be responsible, are not, and should not be responsible for what is positive or not positive with that patient. And that's not where the value's at. The value is being able to document everything accordingly, number one, and see what you do or don't have. And then being able to explain that to the attorney, first of all, in the 10 major categories of documentation. Number 2, how's it going to fit into a low ball injury award, a no offer, low ball injury award, high value, or a policy limit? And then how does it relate to the 7 minimum categories of documentation necessary to support a high value injury award? And then what kind of documentation do we have? How does it fit into the 4 potential injury awards? And how to convert that documentation into each of one of those 4 injury awards. That's when you not only know the documentation, you know how to transfer it into the narrative report, you know how to transfer it in a deposition or trial and testimony. You can explain to them how valuable the information or is not, which is just as important, and then how to convert that into the injury awards. And that's what the attorneys love. You're essentially eliminating all their problems, doing their work for them. And so they know, do they have a good case? Follow up with it. If they don't, then they know to close it down and move on, not waste their time or energy. That's what it's about. It is not about hitting a home run for an individual case. So just like that, 6 months later, Chris went from delivering donuts to attorneys. How humiliating is that? To now doing presentations and getting their attention, being asked to be their expert witness, and just increased his business essentially $500,000, just like that. Does all that make sense that we just talked about pretty much what happened to you in the last 6 months?
Yeah, I just listened to what you said. I did exactly what you said. I went through the obstacles. I had attorneys turn me away. I had a attorney her front desk, which was his wife, tell me not to come back ever again. And I just kept going. I just kept going. I went right to the next attorney. And you just got that's what you got to do. My
Yeah.
advice to all the doctors, you can only learn so much. You can only absorb so much. You got to do it, you know. And I kept telling myself, like, I made it this far. Why stop? Why stop now? I got to do it. And I'm so glad I did, because it really encourages you. It really builds up your faith. Everything Dr. Paul tells you is gold. It's the truth.
It's pretty much what
And
happened with you all along the way, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. I went through all the obstacles, you would say. I've been turned away. I've done things wrong. But even if you do it, what I liked about it, Doc, is that we know so much. Even if you don't feel 100% prepared, you still got to do it. Because I made mistakes. I probably said things or miss saying this or miss saying that, but you got to do it anyway, because what you're going to realize is you know way more than you've ever known, and you know way more than the attorney knows. So you got to do it.
Now,
Otherwise, you always be
we
wondering.
we also know that the lady who turned you down, we also know that that has nothing to do with you. She's just in a total state of unconscious incompetence, that she doesn't even have a clue of all this information that's hurting their injury awards. So even that will come back around. We'll come back around and show them some of the success. Several times we'll show them the success, get some testimonials, and even they'll come around. But we're not going to let those kind of people stop you. So pretty good. You started with the lower NC attorneys. You wrapped them up. That was a lot easier. You kind of went right in to the trial lawyers, which is that's the one you want to go to. And I think the key to that whole thing was you putting them on hold. You covered the material. That was obviously key. But if you did not put him on hold, you would have never got through that material, and you would have never shifted his consciousness, and you never would have gotten those results.
That's right, Doc.
Because that happened one time. One client, I had a client go in there, and he couldn't even he didn't know how to control the attorneys. I was doing a breakdown analysis like this, and he goes, "Well, I didn't even get a chance to go through this. They were asking me here, and they were pulling me here," and I'm like, "Well, he didn't even know how to control a room. He didn't even know how to put them on hold to get to the next step." And then they just patted him on the behind and said, "Go along, little boy." All right, pretty good. So that was a real good classic. I'm kind of surprised you went for the second presentation. You went right up to the trial lawyer, but good for you. You knew enough of it to do it, and you definitely handled it right. It sounds like you handled it right on mark, step by step.
Well, Doc, you said that we should go with the attorneys that we know first,
Right.
and he just so happened to be one of the ones I knew first. He just so
Yeah.
happened to be a trial lawyer. So I felt like I had to I had to do it.
Can you imagine now trying to face off with him without knowing the information that we've taught you the last 6 months? Can you see how you were just nothing to him? You were bringing no value to him.
Not really. I was just I don't know what I was. I was just one of the other many doctors that he
You were
worked
just
with.
giving him the minimal paperwork to submit an injury award.
Pretty much.
That's it. And so now, now you're the turn two guy. You're the guy that knows how it all comes together and how it all plays out. Now I
And
told
Doc, I don't know if I was supposed to say this, but when we went over the four categories um of medicals, impairment, pain and suffering, and prognosis and need for future care, and I scratched out impairment, I scratched out prognosis and need for future care. I asked him, I said, now how many, let me ask you, how many times do you have to ask doctors to reduce their bills? He said, all the time. And I said, well, this is why. This is why. Because these are the only two categories that you can qualify for.
you just punched him in the gut. What did he say? What did he say when you said that? He had to be grasping for air when you said that.
I think he told me to sit down because I was standing in front of him, the whole time. He's like, Doc, he's like, I need you to sit down. So it was great.
Oh man, you nailed it. Yeah, good for you, Chris. All right, just keep it up. Keep it up. But man, you are like, oh, you've got it. All you got to do is do the follow through now and then just start doing your campaigns and these presentations. One thing I have noticed, Chris, you're wearing a tie now.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Chris, imagine showing up to an attorney not wearing a damn suit or a tie.
I can't imagine not doing
That's you're just a yo-yo. I mean, that's the business world. You wear a suit and tie, not your damn polo shirt. All right, real good. Well, you are definitely on the way fast. All right, thanks a lot, Chris.
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah.